The US dollar is, in my opinion, extremely critical to Bitcoin's success or failure, and I want to talk to you about what's just happened here because the inflation report has just come out, basically showing us that from the US government's official numbers, inflation has surged 6.8% for the year in November. And I want to break this down for you and give you guys what my perspective is on this with regards to the market, because right now, wow, Bitcoin is just shooting out. Literally, as I hit record, my short position was stopped out at break even. Look at that just now, huge breakout there. And actually, that's what I wanted to talk about, right? Since this report came out, Bitcoin has been making nice measured moves to the upside. And by the way, position was closed at break even. I didn't lose anything, and I closed profits all the way down over here. I don't know what it was, but it was a very nice profit number. So trust me, huge win anyway. But what I want to talk about here is that basically since this inflation report came out, we've started to see some quite bullish moves for Bitcoin, because the whole idea here is that, like with anything, as a currency gets weaker, the cost, i.e. the price of things, goes up. And the whole idea is that Bitcoin's price might be rising along with it and actually outpacing inflation, so that, you know, while inflation is at a rate of, in this case, 6.8%, Bitcoin is rising up by perhaps 70%. And then Bitcoin has outpaced inflation by quite a lot. And so I think we're seeing a nice run up in response to that, right? I mean, if we look at this chart in a little bit more, you know, with this naked chart right here, in a little bit more of a pure sense, we can definitely start to see that we've been running up quite nicely right now. But the thing I need to remind you of is that the fact that this inflation report has come out, I don't think changes anything. You know, I want us to exercise a little bit of common sense right now. Everyone and their nan knew that inflation in the United States was going pretty crazy, right? I mean, and I know that it's even crazier in other places in the world, but in the US, we've all knew that it was pretty crazy. Perhaps not this much, but I think it was fairly obvious. I've heard numbers like 15%, which are the numbers that I think are closer to being real, or at least 10 or 11%. By the way, important shout out, if you really are engaged with this stuff and you want to take this seriously, then listen to Peter Schiff. Peter Schiff has just done a podcast on this, and he broke this down in a way that I could never dream of doing so with this podcast 18 hours ago. If you take your finances seriously, and especially if you live in the United States, this is the kind of stuff that you must be watching. If you're not watching it, the only valid excuse for that, in my opinion, would be that you never heard of him. So now that you've heard of him, your ignorance has been removed. Please go listen to him. He is hands down one of the best economists to listen to in the world right now. He is strongly against Bitcoin, and that's a whole other subject. But where he's an expert is right here, and this is worth listening to him on. And obviously that means, you know, what he's saying is inflation is a little bit higher, and I think that because of that we're seeing a little bit of a run in the Bitcoin price. But like I said, this is not unexpected news. We knew that inflation was high. We knew that it was in response to all of the quantitative easing. It was in response to, you know, all of the money that was spent on the pandemic and giving people, you know, their stimulus checks and so on. And I think that's why we started to see Bitcoin, you know, proactively get a little bit of the buy pressure. But I really don't think that this buying pressure is going to stick. If you look at the volume, it's happening on no volume. Again, we've got the same instance right here, ladies and gents, where nobody is selling Bitcoin, but a few people are buying it. And so the last traded, but not the real, the last traded price is still going up. Of course, we know that this isn't really an accurate representation of the price because volume isn't really rising up. And so what I really think is happening is that, like I was saying in the previous live stream that I did, and shout out to those of you who are hitting that subscribe button and ticking the bell, hitting the like button as well, because you're going to be catching all of these videos. You would know very well now what my thoughts are here, which are basically that I was expecting Bitcoin to potentially continue to see a little bit of a run up into this weekend, but then on Monday, which starts tomorrow, we start to see the real sell-off. And this is making a lot more sense as we're kind of pushing these higher levels, because Bitcoin is kind of getting closer to these resistance areas right now. As we can see on this chart, if I remove my poorly drawn rising wedge parallel channels right here. We're approaching the resistance areas right now. We already got a little bit of a rejection from it, but I mean, this is probably going to continue rising just a little bit more until Monday rolls around, and we got a little bit of resistance at 51,000, and then of course 53 and all the way up to 54 is where the resistance stretches up to. So Bitcoin's really going to be in quite a lot of trouble right here, in my opinion. And if we take a look at this with the EMA ribbon on the daily time frame, we can start to appreciate this as well, where this resistance kind of stretches all the way down to 53,000, basically showing us that it's going to be very difficult for Bitcoin to break up to this level. But then if we switch this over to the 4-hour time frame, we have resistance right where we are at the moment. So that's from the EMA ribbon. That's also from the Ichimoku cloud on the 4-hour time frame. You know, we very much are pushing up at a time where to me it makes a lot of sense that as soon as Monday rolls around, we get the sell-off coming back again. You know, I want to draw to your attention right now, ladies and gents, that today is the 12th of December. It's a Sunday. Yesterday was the 11th, Saturday, and the 10th was a Friday. That was the last public trade day of this market, the 10th of December, and that's basically where the sell-off ended. So we're going to have a huge CME gap, basically stretching between kind of 40s. Actually, I don't need to assume. I can just show it to you. Let's go to the Bitcoin CME chart, and I'll just show you straight up where the where is it? Where is the CME chart? How am I not? I always do this on stream. It's the most embarrassing thing ever. I can't find the Bitcoin CME contracts. Fuck me. Yeah, like I'm born yesterday too as well, right? It's gonna be right here. CME right there. And then I type in Bitcoin. This is the foolproof way to find it. Bam, there we go. And you can see right here that the last traded price of Bitcoin on the CME contracts was up here at 47, down here, I'm sorry, at 47.8. Obviously, the real price of Bitcoin now is all the way up at 50,000. So we're leaving a little bit of a gap, about a $2,000 gap. And that to me means that, yeah, I mean, well, basically tomorrow when the markets reopen, we're going to be all the way up around over here. We're going to leave a little bit of a gap, and that's going to give the market a perfect opportunity to sell off. And the reason that I feel so strongly that this is going to happen is that this is in response to news which we already knew. You know, this is, if this news was actually saying that inflation was 0.1%, then that would be a surprise, right? But we know that it was high already before this report came out, and of course it might be a little bit higher than you expect, but you'd also have to be borderline, I don't even want to go there, but you'd have to be quite stupid to think that inflation was lower than this, in my opinion. Everyone who has an understanding of the concept of inflation probably knew that inflation was going to be super high this year, just because of all the, I mean, you don't have to be super smart to be able to see this. And so I just feel like this is a little bit of an overreaction. I feel like, you know, if the news was unexpected, then sure, we get a little bit of a rally. But I fully expect that actually whatever price Bitcoin was trading at with regards to inflation, it was already priced in. Now, what does priced in mean? It means that there's a piece of news, a piece of fundamental information in the market, which is already assumed in the price of Bitcoin, right? So when the news actually drops, which in this case was on the 10th of December, 2 days ago, everybody who wanted to buy Bitcoin in anticipation of high inflation had already done so, because we knew inflation was super high. And that's why I think that this is a little bit of an overreaction. You know, again, if we kind of look at the fear and greed index, we're going to start to see this moving just a little bit. Let's go ahead and refresh this right here, all the way up to 27. That's a big jump right there. Yesterday, we were at extreme fear with a reading of 16, now at 27, and it hasn't even updated. We have another 7 hours here. This is probably going to put us back towards neutral territory right now. I think it's the perfect relief rally. And from a technical picture, what I really want to make very clear to you guys right now is that nothing has changed. Bitcoin is still in a bearish trend. Bitcoin is still potentially, and I don't know this for sure, I don't have a crystal ball, but it is still potentially forming a bearish pattern right here, a typical kind of bear flag formation that looks a little bit like this before potentially moving down again. This is really important, because if you're able to spot these things, and if you just understand basic chart patterns, then you're going to know that the market drops, it forms a staircase step, drops again, forms a staircase step. In this case, it has a lot of zigzagging going on, but it's still the same thing nonetheless. And then it drops again, forms another step, and it drops potentially again. That's the kind of pattern that we're in right now. I don't think that anything substantial has changed. One of the things I'd like to see is a potential sign that the market has bottomed out, and that might be in the form of an ascending triangle, some sort of bullish chart pattern, maybe a double bottom, which means that we set a low and then we set the same low again, and then we blast off with volume, which crucially we're not getting right now. And so those are the kind of things that I would have been looking for, but I don't see them right now, unfortunately. And that's kind of what's got me on alert just for the moment. It's that, Bitcoin has not shown me signs of bottoming out. I feel like it's overreacting in response to this inflation news. I also want to draw your attention to the dollar itself. Now, guys, all of this analysis is because I'm getting requested to cover these things more. People on this channel want me to cover the S&P 500, other global indices, the US dollar, and so on. And I do this from time to time, but I'm very clear to tell you guys, look, I am not the right guy for this kind of analysis, right? I mean, I just haven't studied it enough. I've studied Bitcoin extremely in depth. I know Bitcoin like it's the back of my hand, but when I'm talking about the dollar and indices and so on, I'm just not that good. And that's why I refer you to other experts like Peter Schiff, who obviously knows way more about this than I know. Tone Vase, Crypto Kirby, these guys know more about the economy and all of these factors that play in than I do. And it's very important that you listen to people who have their strengths in certain directions, and this is not one of my strengths in terms of just explaining to you how the economy works. I have a better understanding than most people, but you want to learn this from people who have an amazing level of knowledge, and that's why I'm referring you to the people who know this better than me. But what I can definitely do is give you guys the same analysis that correctly predicted that the US dollar was probably going to gain a lot of strength against other currencies globally. And it was basically showing you that we formed the classic W-shaped pattern right here, formed the double bottom. And where I really started to get concerned was when the US dollar broke this resistance line right here, which is at 93.544 on this US dollar currency index. This number doesn't really mean anything. It doesn't mean the US dollar is worth 93.5 of something. It's just an index against other global currencies. And what I was warning you guys about is that we got a breakout above it. We had this resistance box, but we broke out above this as well. And as soon as we got the breakout above this orange line, take a look at what happened. We came back down for that kiss of life. Bam, we blasted off. And this is a big rally. The US dollar gaining this much strength, 8%, bloody hell, 8%, right? In what, 6 months is huge. This is not a demonstration. I want to make this clear right now. Again, like I said, I don't have an expert level of knowledge on this, but definitely more than the average person. This the dollar, I can't speak, the dollar gaining 8% in this index is not necessarily a demonstration of its strength, but more so a demonstration of the weakness of other currencies across the world. I'm sure that, for example, if we looked at the US dollar against the Great British Pound, we would see something similar. If we look at GBP against the dollar, take a look at what we're seeing right here. We can see right here that whereas previously, and let's just go back a fair while back just to get a better picture of this trend. Actually, this is showing us something fairly similar kind of since May, which is when the dollar started to rally up. You were able to buy roughly $1.42 with one Great British Pound, and now you can only buy $1.32 from the Great British Pound. So the dollar is extremely weak, but other currencies are weaker. Very, very important distinction to keep in mind. Let's look at the euro to see the same thing. Again, right here, it peaks where 1 euro can buy you $1.22, and now 1 euro can only buy you $1.13. These are big changes. This is not stable at all. This is a huge, huge change. I know that we're used to really big swings in the crypto market, but these are very small markets, right? Global currencies are huge. I don't need to tell you this. They're absolutely enormous. And so to be seeing such big moves like this is a big, big deal in my opinion. And my God, considering how weak the US dollar is with all of its inflation and seeing that it's actually stronger than other currencies across the world, I don't need to tell you this because you probably already worked it out. But if you didn't, obviously, this means that we're in a lot of trouble. Something really bad, I think, is going to happen to economies across the world fairly soon. Now, I don't know what fairly soon mean. Does it mean next week, or does it mean in 2 years from now? I don't know, but I think it's going to happen, and I think that we ought to be as prepared for it as we can possibly be. And this is where I'm going to sound like a massive hypocrite, but in my opinion, one of the best ways to be prepared for that is by buying Bitcoin. The reason that I'm saying this is because if these currencies keep on losing value and there's a lot of inflation, obviously inflation means that prices go up, but Bitcoin was built in order to combat these things. So while initially there's going to be a lot of panic and we're going to see crazy things happening, later on I would expect a lot of this money to flow back into Bitcoin, potentially to flow into Bitcoin for the first time, and we might see a price explosion there. Very, very important. Anyway, I've gone really far off track, so what I want to focus your attention on instead is that the US dollar on this currency index is right now in a pixel perfect even, bull flag formation right here, indicating that it might be ready to blow up again. Really, just looking at how this looks at the moment, this is ready to rise up at any point. It can continue trading in what is this, it's not even trading, but it can continue moving in what is, just generally kind of like a consolidation pattern for a little bit longer, obviously. I mean, this stuff can go for a fairly long amount of time, but if I just kind of draw these two, and it's not worth doing too much analysis on the US dollar index, really. I don't think it's worth doing a lot of analysis on this, but I mean, right now there's a lot of volatility on this index, and so it makes just a little bit more sense than usual. This can keep going on until, kind of the end of the year, but we still, broadly speaking, have a pretty clear uptrend for the dollar, where it's broken key resistance levels on this index, and it's now consolidating before potentially getting ready to blow off again. I think that would make a lot of sense. I have no idea why. It really doesn't make sense to me. If anything, like I said, this is just a hallmark of how, as much as I hate to say it, being someone who's not American, the American economy just is stronger than much of the rest of the world, and that's why we're seeing these drops. Like, I'm wondering if we see the Japanese yen against the dollar, do we see something similar? Bam, look at that, my God. Yeah, I mean, this is huge. So 0.0097 down to 0.0088. So we're seeing a similar percentage drop right here. Yeah, about 9.5%. So what about the Chinese yen? I don't know what the... Oh, it's yuan, sorry. If we look at this against the dollar, okay, so you can actually you can buy less Chinese yuan now. Isn't that poetic? Wow, look at that. So the pandemic strikes where? Right here. This is when the pandemic became fashionable around March in the West. Pandemic becomes fashionable over here when you can buy 0.14 Chinese yuan per dollar. Am I saying this right? No. 1 Chinese yuan can buy you $0.14, 14 cents. And now, 1 Chinese yuan can buy you nearly 16 cents. So how poetic is that? The pandemic is introduced by... Well, it's obviously not done on purpose. I mean, I'm not buying into the conspiracy theories. That's a different discussion altogether. But assuming it wasn't done on purpose, pandemic came from China, and now their economy is stronger than the US. That's something interesting. I'm not trying to... I'm not the guy with the tinfoil hats. I mean, really, I don't think about this stuff as much as, it's fashionable to do so. But I'll let you make your own conclusions based off that. I don't want to get in the line of fire right there. But to me, just moving this back to Bitcoin, I think that this is painting a fairly concerning image just for the short term. I mean, we knew that inflation was going to be as bad as it was, if not potentially worse. Obviously, most people don't even believe the number from the United States and are expecting that the real inflation number is actually higher than 6.8%. It could close higher because we might see huge inflation for the month of December, and we don't have December's data yet. So that can potentially be quite problematic as well. But nonetheless, we already knew this, and I'm just basically seeing a weekend rally here, leaving a CME gap. And I know that these aren't the most important things ever, but this is quite a tight range, and there's still so much resistance up ahead. Really, the technical picture hasn't changed. I just see Bitcoin potentially ranging sideways in this kind of area before potentially getting smacked back down, perhaps a little bit lower. So like I said, just as I hit record, my short position on Bitcoin was stopped out. I managed to close some very nice profits on Bitcoin as it was dropping down, which was absolutely great. I even closed profits right at the very bottom, which I'm very happy about. If you do want to jump inside of 4Flies VIP, then follow, I don't have the steps now, follow the first link in the description down below. and you can check it out. And I want to give you guys a very quick reminder that that 50% discount we were running is going to end I don't know, in less than 24 hours. I don't know the actual time frame, but it's probably like 20 hours left now, so you really don't have much time. If you want to get inside, then go ahead. We had that discount right there. Here's a few testimonials of some very happy VIP members who've seen explosive account growth after joining ForFlies VIP. Bam, a nice 33% gain there, 32, 44% gain. Very, very impressive, to say the least. So if you want to jump inside and watch me trading in real time, navigating these markets, this guy joining VIP, by the way, in March of last year, and then became a millionaire by January of this year. So I know this is a little bit outdated now. We have done this before, but it's cool to see nonetheless. I like to highlight the people who became millionaires. If you're wondering what he started with, in this screenshot in January, he had just over $1 million, about 1.1. When he started with me, he had $30,000, and he had never traded before. He took our yearly offer, and he did very, very well with it. He actually had a special technique on how to use our VIP subscription, which was really cool, and I'll tell you all about it if you take our annual membership, because you can only do it with the annual membership. I'll tell you about that when you set up your first call with me, because as you know, anyone who takes an annual membership, you're going to be getting phone calls with me, which you can have anytime you like. Just ask me for them. We'll jump on the call on the phone together, talk about any issues you're going through. And I like to start with one immediately after you join, so we can kind of work out some good next steps and how to really skyrocket your performance. So very, very cool indeed. If you want to jump inside of that, like I said, it ends within probably like 20 hours, and it's the first link in the description down below. Like I said, I mean, you know, resistance stretching up to 53 to 54, so please do keep an eye on that. Don't be surprised if we end up getting a little bit of a drop. This rally is happening on no volume, so I absolutely do not have any faith in it, unfortunately. But yeah, that's pretty much me all done there. So if you have enjoyed this video, you know exactly what to do. Hit up the likes, subscribe, tick the bell, do all of that good stuff. If you want free money, then Bybit. Remember when they were running that $3,500, $3,600 bonus campaign? Yeah, now they're running a 4.1k bonus campaign. So that means when you sign up using my link in the description down below to Bybit, you're gonna be getting up to $4,100 for free as a thank you for using my referral link in the description down below. So if that's not worth your time, I don't know what the hell is. Go take advantage of that while you can. This is also a limited time offer, and I'm super happy that they restarted it. $4,100, up to $4,100, completely free of charge. All you gotta do is sign up using my link and make your first deposit, and you're going to get access to it. Beyond that, guys, if you found this video useful and interesting, you like the fact that I incorporated some of the real world events into this analysis, then do me a favor and drop it as a comment and tell me what you want to see more of. Give me your thoughts on this analysis as well. And I'll see you all in the next video. Take it easy. Bye-bye.